Dear Senator Voinovich, since you have failed to provide the answers to my questions in your letter of 7/30, I will repeat them. Number one, I want the legislative act of Congress which made the IRS a government agency and or the bidding procedure used to create them as a government contractor or subcontractor. This would be the organic acts of Congress. Number two, I want to know the lawful definition of income as ruled by the United States Supreme Court, which you do not find in the IRS Code. Number three, I want to know who is defining income within the Internal Revenue Code, since by ruling of the United States Supreme Court, Congress cannot define income. I want to know, number four, I want to know, since income taxes were ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in 1895, under what authority the IRS has in Section 26 to lawfully send out a 1040 form without telling the American citizens they are not required lawfully to fill it out. Fraud by trickery, right? Number five, since I am not a corporation, fraud by trickery, my name, all caps letters, is a corporate fiction by creation from the Styles Manual for the purpose of fraudulent taxation, bond creation, correct? Where is this bond? Identity theft. You have stolen my identity, made me a corporate fiction, and then bonded me. You have made me a corporation in my birth certificate, then declared me dead, as you have millions of other Americans. Where are these bonds, Mr. Voinovich? Your office received from me a lawful notice and demand correcting this error. You refuse to honor it. This makes Congress and the Internal Revenue Service accessories to tax fraud. Violation of due process. Number 7, violation of due process. A notice of levy is not a levy unless it has a court order attached. Thus, a criminal act should anyone honor it. In other words, if you have a notice of levy, which the IRS do not have the authority to use under 266331 in the Reconstruction Act, 6331 went over to Section 27, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. The IRS are counterfeiting this document, notice of levy and lien, and everything they're doing. And they are not taking people to court. And why is that? Because if the court finds out they're doing it, it's a fraud to the court. They can go to jail. So they eliminate the court process now, and they just have ignorant bankers enforce the levies. Number 8, show me any law that requires me to respond to a non-government agency, because you, Senator Voinovich, have failed to provide any lawful documentation making the IRS a government agency, a U.S. Department of Treasury, or anything else.
And you were saying they're LLC registered in Delaware and based in Puerto Rico?
Actually, they have a group working for them now called National Financial Services, LLC, out of Birmingham, Alabama, as a collection agency for the IRS. So how can the IRS, not being a lawful government agency, hire someone to enforce their criminal activity?
But weren't you telling me a couple weeks ago that they're LLC out of Delaware and based in Puerto Rico?
The IRS is home based out of Puerto Rico.
Right.
They're in violation of RICO 1951-1961. The Supreme Court in 1965 ran an investigation on the IRS and went all the way back to the Civil War. Could find no legislative act of Congress ever making them a government agency. So what their opinion was, and they stated in the opinion in 65, that they are illegal collection agencies in violation of RICO 1951-1961, home based out of Puerto Rico. So they have absolutely no lawful title here in the United States.
And how do they declare us dead? You were saying they...
Well, what they're doing is they have the county coroners declare you dead on your birth certificate.
Why don't people recognize that?
Because they're never told.
But I mean, where's the documentation to prove that? I mean, that's a pretty preposterous thing to suggest.
We have the lady who actually did the investigation on this in our group has all the documentation on it. I'm trying to remember if it was Maria or I can't think of her other.
Can you give us some kind of clues where we would find our death certificate? Or?
No, I would have to go into the conference tapes and find it. Because I missed a call the night that she disposed all that stuff.
But you got the gist of it.
But it's in, actually, if you go to AIB Radio and click on the archives, you might be able to find it. We do a conference call every Friday and Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or 9 o'clock, I mean. And if you go to AIB Radio, all that information's on their website.
AIBradio.com?
.com.
Also, you were mentioning that if people go to DunandBradstreet.com, I guess, they can find the many of our government agencies.
That's what I found on Judge Routson in my case here in Hancock County. I Googled Dun and Bradstreet, and then I Googled Judge Routson and found that he was an incorporation traded on Dun and Bradstreet. So I confronted him in my case and said, "What? Explain this. Explain this to me. Why are you listed on Dun and Bradstreet traded as a private corporation?" What this automatically does in my court case, ladies and gentlemen, is prove the judge has a conflict of interest in the matter. He set himself up as a private court. Remember, go back to 1945 when all agencies were turned over to the U.S. to the United Nations.